Something major has just happened, and it could change the future of technology and jobs worldwide. A move so sudden and strategic that global markets were caught off guard. China has started cutting NVIDIA out of its tech ecosystem, while at the same time, the United States is facing mass layoffs across multiple industries. These events are not coincidental, they are connected in ways many people have not noticed, and the consequences could be significant. Right now, a quiet struggle is unfolding behind the scenes. It's a battle over who controls the most advanced computing chips and who will shape the technological and economic direction for the next decade. On one side, China is rapidly advancing its own processors and limiting foreign technology. On the other side, American companies are bracing for a wave of layoffs that could reach near record levels. Between these forces sits NVIDIA, a company that has been central to the global tech boom. In this video, you'll discover why China has chosen to reduce reliance on NVIDIA at this specific moment, and why the shift is happening faster than most analysts predicted. You'll see how new directives are forcing major Chinese tech firms to halt purchases of NVIDIA chips, including canceling contracts worth billions, and why this reflects something deeper than a simple trade disagreement. You'll also learn the lesser-known reasons behind rising layoffs in the United States, including a slowdown in technology spending, falling demand for data centers, and early signs of a broader economic shift. By the end of this video, you will understand how these events are connected, why they matter, and how they could reshape the balance of power in global technology. You'll see how China's push to replace foreign chips could weaken some of the largest American tech companies, and how declining investment in advanced hardware could trigger more job cuts across Silicon Valley and beyond. Most viewers only hear public statements, they don't hear the private conversations within companies. They don't see how decisions in Beijing or Washington can ripple across the world in weeks. Here, you'll get the full picture. As you watch, you'll notice how each development connects to the next, like pieces of a larger plan, a plan that may determine who leads in the next era of technology. Stay with us till the end, because what is happening now will affect not just technology companies, but jobs, markets, and innovation for years to come. Welcome to our channel. For clear explanations, sharp insights, and in-depth breakdowns of the events shaping the world, make sure to subscribe and join our community. NVIDIA has become one of the most important companies in advanced computing. It builds chips that power large-scale computing platforms, robotics, autonomous systems, and massive data centers. For years, these chips have been considered the industry standard. Companies aiming to stay competitive often relied on NVIDIA hardware because nothing else matched its performance, efficiency, and software ecosystem. This reputation put NVIDIA at the center of the global tech race. One of the biggest hopes for the company was China. Chinese tech giants were expanding rapidly, building large data centers, launching new projects, and racing to lead in cloud computing. Each of these efforts required powerful processors, and NVIDIA's chips were the preferred choice. Analysts expected that China could become one of NVIDIA's largest revenue sources, especially as demand for advanced computing solutions surged. Companies in China were eager to purchase more units each year. From smaller processors to the most advanced high-end chips, there was strong confidence that China would drive NVIDIA's growth to new levels. Many forecasts predicted rapid adoption fueled by expanding data needs, ambitious technological projects, and the country's goal to compete on the global stage. Investors viewed China as essential, a market large enough to shape NVIDIA's long-term trajectory. For a while, the expectation was simple. The deeper China moved into advanced computing infrastructure, the more NVIDIA would benefit. But recently, NVIDIA suffered a major setback in China. The country's internet regulator instructed top tech firms, including giants like Alibaba and ByteDance, to stop purchasing NVIDIA processors. They were told to halt testing and even cancel existing orders for the RTX Pro 6000D chips, designed specifically for Chinese data centers. This is more than just a slowdown, it effectively amounts to a ban on NVIDIA's chips across many of China's largest technology companies. Projects that had lined up tens of thousands of units had to stop immediately. Chips that were expected to power massive data centers have now been frozen out. What makes this move particularly significant is that it is not triggered by foreign export restrictions or external pressure. It is an internal decision from Beijing. The push reflects a broader shift. China is choosing to rely on domestically developed processors instead of foreign technology. The goals are self-reliance, security, and control. In practical terms, this crackdown affects not only chip sales but the entire infrastructure pipeline in China. State-funded data centers are being instructed to drop foreign processors, existing orders are being cancelled, and even testing and evaluation phases are being suspended. For NVIDIA, the consequences are immediate. A major market, previously a significant source of revenue, has suddenly closed off. China's actions make it clear that the country wants to reduce dependence on foreign technology, especially that originating from the United States. For years, Chinese leaders have warned about the risks of relying on foreign chips to power their computing infrastructure. Each time new restrictions appeared from Washington, these warnings intensified. Now, China is accelerating its shift toward domestically developed processors, pushing its largest companies to replace foreign chips with homegrown alternatives. This move is part of a larger technological rivalry, where both nations see advanced chips as essential for economic growth and strategic strength. In such competition, depending on foreign suppliers becomes a strategic vulnerability. China aims to eliminate that vulnerability by building its own supply chain from scratch. This includes chip design, manufacturing, data center architecture, and the software that supports large-scale computing systems. Controlling its own supply is strategic and economic. Local chip companies gain more investment. Industrial parks for semiconductor development expand. Universities train more engineers in chip design. And startups receive government funding to develop processors capable of replacing foreign products. The entire ecosystem grows stronger when the country relies on domestic technology instead of imports. Trust is also a factor. China wants processors it can control and regulate, ones that cannot be disrupted by outside forces. Over recent years, several Chinese companies experienced setbacks when they couldn't secure foreign components. Those experiences have accelerated the path towards self-reliance. Now the goal is computing infrastructure powered entirely by domestic processors, data centers running on local servers, and platforms built on technology that remains inside the country. The consequences of China's move extend far beyond a single company. With state-backed data centers and top technology firms required to stop using foreign processors, NVIDIA suddenly faces a massive reduction in potential revenue. Some of the chips specifically designed for the Chinese market have already seen demand collapse, leaving inventory idle and production schedules disrupted. This sharp decline does more than reduce sales, it introduces a deep layer of uncertainty for NVIDIA's global strategy. For years, NVIDIA's long-term plans were built around the assumption that China would remain a reliable buyer. Those assumptions shaped product development, manufacturing capacity, and revenue projections. Now, all of those plans are under pressure. Losing a customer base of this magnitude has immediate and profound financial implications. At the same time, domestic chip manufacturers inside China are rapidly stepping into the gap left behind. As Chinese firms adopt homegrown processors, NVIDIA's position as the preferred supplier for high-performance computing infrastructure becomes less secure. The more China accelerates its drive for independence, the stronger local manufacturers become. This shift could weaken NVIDIA's influence not only in China but also in other regions observing these geopolitical tensions. Investors are already reacting. Analysts who previously forecast strong long-term growth for NVIDIA may revise their projections downward. Revenue estimates tied to China could drop sharply, and questions may arise about how dependent the company is on markets that can shift direction abruptly. A slowdown in demand and reduced spending on large-scale computing projects is already sending shock waves through the technology sector. When major buyers pause or cancel orders, companies built around rapid infrastructure expansion suddenly face shrinking revenue. As budgets tighten, many firms begin cutting staff to stabilize costs. These layoffs may occur across the United States and other global markets, affecting jobs linked to data centers, cloud services, research, and semiconductor development. Positions that once seemed secure become vulnerable as momentum shifts. This transition also has implications for innovation. Companies that can no longer rely on imported processors may turn toward local alternatives, attempting to build new hardware ecosystems aligned with domestic policies and economic realities. This push for self-reliance could reshape technological development. Some projects may struggle or be delayed, others may adapt successfully, and new players could rise to prominence where foreign companies once dominated. Globally, the competition intensifies. China is expanding its domestic supply chain, while seeking to reduce external dependence. Meanwhile, firms in the United States, Europe, and other Western regions are striving to protect their market share, maintain technological leadership, and retain global influence. The outcome is a high-stakes race where each side is working to strengthen its supply chain, secure talent, and accelerate breakthroughs in hardware, software, and large-scale computing platforms. Several scenarios could unfold from this turning point, each reshaping the technology landscape in a distinct way. In the first scenario, China continues aggressively promoting its own processors, eventually replacing most foreign chips in key infrastructure. Domestic chipmakers could rise rapidly, benefiting from government support, contracts, and investment. Over time, they might close the performance gap with Western manufacturers, gaining competitiveness in both local and international markets. In the second scenario, foreign companies like NVIDIA adapt to the changing environment. They might redesign products to comply with regulatory expectations, develop specialized versions to bypass restrictions, or shift focus to regions still experiencing rapid technology adoption, such as India, Southeast Asia, or the Middle East. Firms that respond quickly and strategically could maintain influence and even gain access to new markets previously overlooked. In the third scenario, the global technology expansion could cool. If demand for high-performance processors continues to decline and companies scale back infrastructure investment, there could be a broader slowdown in the sector. Businesses may pause hiring, trim research budgets, or cancel ambitious projects requiring advanced hardware. New infrastructure projects could be delayed, and startups dependent on cutting-edge computing may face operational challenges. This moment is bigger than one company or market decision. The developments in China signal a global shift in how nations plan their technological future, how companies strategize, and how infrastructure shapes economic power. The split between China and NVIDIA is not merely a business story, it represents a wider realignment with long-term consequences. This shift affects jobs, investment decisions, market dynamics, and the strategic balance of technology worldwide. Companies, investors, and policymakers must pay attention. Changes in supply chains, regulatory frameworks, and national technology policy do not remain confined within borders. They ripple outward, influencing hiring, capital allocation, industrial growth, and the speed at which technological advances reach global markets. Decisions that seem localized today may become global turning points tomorrow. The landscape is evolving rapidly. The actions taken by China and responses from international firms will shape the competitive environment for years to come. Markets, governments, and investors alike are watching closely, aware that the next moves could determine who leads in computing infrastructure and who must adapt to a new, reshaped global market. The unfolding situation between China and major foreign technology companies is reshaping global supply chains, trade dynamics, and industrial strategy in unprecedented ways. With China prioritizing domestic processors and infrastructure, multinational firms now face a landscape where past assumptions about growth, reliability, and market access no longer hold true. The ripple effects extend far beyond chip sales. They impact production pipelines, R&D investments, strategic planning, and employment across multiple sectors. Companies that previously relied on China as a major growth engine are now forced to reassess everything from long-term production schedules to partnerships and research collaborations. The sudden reduction in orders creates immediate financial pressure, forcing firms to slow production, repurpose manufacturing lines, or find alternative markets. This disruption affects not just large corporations but also smaller suppliers, contract manufacturers, and component providers worldwide. The interconnected nature of technology supply chains means that a single change in policy or purchasing behavior in one region can cascade through multiple countries and industries. Investors are reacting to these developments with heightened caution. Stock valuations that once reflected steady growth projections are now under scrutiny. Analysts must consider new scenarios where revenue streams previously expected from China may no longer materialize. Questions about dependency on volatile or politically sensitive markets are becoming central to investment decisions. Companies that once thrived on rapid expansion now face the challenge of navigating geopolitical risks while maintaining profitability. For the workforce, the implications are equally significant. Job security in sectors tied to technology infrastructure, such as manufacturing, engineering, and logistics can become uncertain when demand shifts suddenly. Layoffs, hiring freezes, and project delays may occur as companies adjust to changing market conditions, even for employees not directly involved in international operations. Broader economic effects can emerge through slowed growth, reduced investment, and changes in corporate strategy. Meanwhile, domestic firms in China are benefiting from government support, policy incentives, and increased market opportunities. With state-backed contracts and priority access to infrastructure projects, these companies are rapidly scaling their capabilities. Investments in talent development, research programs, and industrial parks focused on semiconductor design and production are accelerating. Over time, these efforts may allow domestic companies to close the technological gap with established international players, creating a more competitive and self-sufficient ecosystem. This shift toward domestic technology also introduces new strategic considerations for foreign companies. To remain competitive, firms may explore alternative approaches such as customizing products to meet local regulations, forming joint ventures, or diversifying sales into other emerging markets. Regions like Southeast Asia, India, the Middle East, and Latin America may offer growth opportunities, but adapting to these markets requires time, investment, and localized expertise. Companies that respond proactively have a chance to maintain influence, while those that hesitate risk losing ground. The broader industrial and geopolitical implications are substantial. Countries around the world are observing these developments closely, recognizing that access to advanced technology and the ability to control critical infrastructure are now strategic priorities. Governments may adjust policies on trade, investment, and technology transfer, while companies reassess supply chain vulnerabilities. The intersection of commerce, policy, and technology has never been more pronounced, as decisions in one region can directly affect global economic stability and strategic competitiveness. Moreover, the competition for technological dominance is accelerating. As China strengthens its domestic ecosystem, Western companies are investing heavily in research, development, and partnerships to retain their edge. This includes funding advanced manufacturing capabilities, talent acquisition, and innovation in high-performance computing. The result is a global race where speed, efficiency, and strategic foresight are critical to maintaining leadership. Several possible trajectories could emerge from the current shift. One outcome is that domestic firms in China successfully replace foreign suppliers, capturing a large share of the market and establishing long-term self-sufficiency. Another is that multinational companies adapt and redirect their efforts toward other regions, finding new avenues for growth while maintaining technological influence. A third possibility is a slowdown in global technology expansion, as uncertainty and reduced demand lead to more cautious investment strategies. Each scenario carries distinct economic, strategic, and workforce implications. For businesses and governments alike, understanding these trends is essential. Supply chain decisions, investment strategies, and policy measures must account for shifting market dynamics and geopolitical pressures. The ability to anticipate changes, diversify risk, and respond quickly will determine which companies thrive and which lag behind. At the same time, the human impact cannot be overlooked. Employment, skills, development, and workforce planning must adapt to an environment where market access and technological capability are in constant flux. Ultimately, the events unfolding in China and their effects on global technology markets underscore a fundamental reality. The balance of power in high-tech industries is no longer determined solely by innovation or scale. Geopolitical strategy, domestic policy, and market control have become central factors. Companies and nations that can navigate this complex landscape with agility, foresight, and resilience are most likely to secure long-term advantages. Those that cannot may find themselves sidelined in a rapidly evolving global order. Every strategic decision from chip design and production to market entry and partnership formation carries outsized importance. The stakes are high not only for companies like NVIDIA but for entire industries and the global economy. The next few years will be critical in determining which players succeed, which markets become dominant, and how the technological balance of power shifts across continents. Observers, investors, and policymakers will need to watch carefully, as the outcomes will have lasting effects on trade, industry, and employment worldwide. The global technology landscape is at a pivotal crossroads. The recent shifts in China's approach to domestic production and reduced reliance on foreign processors are not isolated events. They represent a deliberate strategy to control critical infrastructure and secure long-term economic independence. For multinational companies, this means that growth models based on predictable demand from China are no longer viable. Firms must now rethink market strategies, production pipelines, and long-term investments while managing the uncertainties created by geopolitical pressures. This challenge affects not only corporate revenue and global supply chains but also the workforce, which may face instability due to slowing orders, project cancellations, and shifting priorities in technology deployment. As China accelerates its domestic technology ecosystem, local companies are receiving unprecedented support. State funding, preferential contracts, and strategic partnerships are helping domestic firms scale rapidly, expand manufacturing capacity, and attract top talent. Industrial parks dedicated to semiconductor development are expanding, universities are channeling more engineers into chip design and production programs, and startups are receiving government backing to innovate in areas previously dominated by foreign players. This structured push enhances China's technological self-sufficiency and gradually reduces its vulnerability to foreign supply chains, thereby altering the global competitive landscape in the long term. The consequences for foreign technology companies are profound. Companies that once relied heavily on Chinese markets must now consider alternate strategies to mitigate revenue loss and maintain market influence. This could involve diversifying into emerging regions such as Southeast Asia, India, Latin America, or the Middle East, customizing products to meet local regulatory standards, or forming strategic alliances with regional partners. However, adapting to new markets requires significant time, capital, and expertise. Firms that are able to act swiftly and strategically may capture new opportunities, while those that hesitate risk losing ground to competitors and domestic players who benefit from local support. Beyond immediate market concerns, these shifts are reshaping global industrial and economic policy. Governments and multinational corporations alike are recognizing that access to advanced technology, control over production infrastructure, and the ability to secure supply chains are now central to economic competitiveness. Trade policies, investment regulations, and technology transfer agreements are increasingly influenced by these considerations. Countries and companies are reassessing risk management, supply chain diversification, and innovation strategies to ensure they are not overly dependent on a single region or supplier. The interplay of technology, policy, and commerce is becoming more pronounced, with decisions in one country having global repercussions. The labor market is also being impacted. Jobs connected to manufacturing, engineering, logistics, and technical infrastructure may experience fluctuations as demand shifts. Layoffs, hiring freezes, and project delays could occur in regions where companies face reduced orders, forcing workforce strategies to evolve. Simultaneously, domestic Chinese firms may see accelerated job creation, as government-backed projects and increased production require a larger pool of skilled professionals. This divergence creates a complex global employment dynamic, highlighting how closely workforce stability is tied to technology, policy, and market access. Looking ahead, multiple potential scenarios could unfold. In one, domestic Chinese firms successfully replace foreign suppliers, achieving technological parity and strengthening their domestic market dominance. This could lead to a more self-reliant and robust technology ecosystem in China, with local companies gaining influence internationally. In another scenario, foreign firms adjust by innovating, entering new markets, and finding ways to maintain relevance despite restrictions in China. This adaptation could stabilize their growth while creating new avenues for expansion. A third scenario involves a broader slowdown in global technology investment. If uncertainty and reduced demand persist, overall growth in tech infrastructure, production, and innovation may decelerate, affecting companies, investors, and labor markets worldwide. Strategically, these developments emphasize the increasing importance of agility and foresight. Companies must navigate complex geopolitical and industrial landscapes, balancing market opportunities with supply chain resilience and risk management. Nations, too, are recalibrating policies to ensure access to critical technology, secure supply chains, and maintain global competitiveness. The next few years will be decisive, shaping the global balance of power in technology and defining which companies, regions, and nations emerge as leaders in advanced computing and industrial innovation. Finally, the situation illustrates that technology competition today extends far beyond simple business metrics. It encompasses industrial policy, national security, workforce stability, and economic influence. Decisions made in boardrooms, government offices, and research labs ripple through supply chains, influence global trade, and affect the daily lives of employees, investors, and consumers worldwide. Observers of the technology sector, policymakers, and industry professionals must pay close attention, as the outcomes of these developments will define the global technological order for decades to come. For companies, the choices they make now how to adapt, diversify, and innovate will determine their relevance in a world where markets are shifting, governments are asserting control, and technological leadership is a strategic priority. The global competitive landscape has changed, and everyone in the technology ecosystem, from multinational corporations to local suppliers, from governments to the workforce, will feel the impact. Understanding the depth and implications of these changes is no longer optional. It is essential for anticipating the future and making informed decisions in a world where technological control and market access are increasingly intertwined.